and stop Spider-Man.
Let's get right into it. He's the weapon of an Egyptian god and the first mutant ever born. Plus, he destroyed Starkiller base. Wait, sorry, that's the Council of Oscars. Instead, let's look at some Spider-Man 2099 secret facts right now. What's the most important thing about a hero if not their origin? We all know Peter Parker's. Trip to a lab, some contact with a genetic spider, the unfortunate death of his uncle, and boom, you have a hero. But just how closely does Miguel O'Hara's origin connect to that of the original Spider-Man? The truth is, not much. Spider-Man 2099 has the unique distinction of actually creating himself. The company he worked for, Alchemax, was actually trying to produce a formula that could recreate the powers of the original Spider-Man. Given that Miguel lives in a town called Nueva York in the year 2099, the golden age of heroes had long passed. Looking up to the original Spider-Man, Miguel decided to take up the project of trying to create the next Spider-Man. It was his formula, combined with some other things that the workers of Alchemax forced him to take. Led by the villainous Tyler Stone, Miguel quickly gained new powers and took on the futuristic identity of his once favorite hero. Alchemax as a whole would be a recurring villainous organization that continued to tie Miguel into working for them against his will. It was often their schemes that would create villains like Vulture 2099, and overall just give a headache to Miguel O'Hara. At the end of the day though, while there was definitely some unintended consequences of his work, he does have the unique distinction of being the one who created the formula that gave himself powers. Every Spider-Man has people around them who make them even more iconic. Miles Morales has his Uncle Aaron Davis and his mother and father. Peter Parker, of course, has Aunt May. Just about every Spider-Person has some kind of role model who tries to teach them to be a good person, leaving that lesson to be carried over in their feats of heroism. Spider-Man 2099 doesn't exactly have that. But hey, nobody's perfect. Miguel O'Hara has his mom, who is supposed to serve as the Aunt May role model in this Spider-Person's life. However, for all intents and purposes, she's kind of just the opposite. Whereas Aunt May looks at Peter Parker and loves her nephew while sometimes condemning the actions of the vigilante hero Spider-Man, or at the very least being worried for his safety and not supporting his actions.
What the
Miguel's mother loves the superhero vigilante and in fact even idolizes him. All this while openly wishing her own son was a different person. Unknowingly, she supports his vigilantism, but often fails as a mother toward her own son whom she has grown to resent. So sure, he never got the whole great power, great responsibility speech, but I'm sure he could figure out what's right and wrong on his own, right? Some of the most fun facts about Spider-Man 2099, or any hero for that matter, lies in their power set. You may think, well, this guy's a Spider-Man. Obviously, I know every trick he's got up his sleeve. Haha, quite the mistake, as no two Spider-Men are exactly alike. Several Spider-Man 2099 secrets come in the form of special powers he possesses that no other Spider-Man does, or at least help him stand apart. The first of these is an increased healing factor. Now no, he's not on the level of someone like Deadpool or Wolverine.
wonderful TGI Friday.
And to say that a Spider-Man having a healing factor is unique is definitely incorrect. After all, Peter Parker can take a beating and continue fighting the next day. However, Spider-Man 2099's healing factor is nearly instantaneous. His tissue immediately begins regrowing if he is cut, and his bones immediately begin refusing if they are broken. It's not quite instantaneous, but it's close. But just because you may have put a hole in this guy, definitely don't count him out. There are some iconic features of a Spider-Man that just have to be there. Part of the whole reason he's nicknamed Spider-Man is not because he has 8 legs or multiple eyes, but in fact it's that he can shoot webs. Honestly, a Spider-Man that can't shoot webs is basically just an ant, really. You know, that's a really good name for a superhero.
Oh yeah, thanks.
But yes, a Spider-Man certainly has to be able to tie up his foes using webs or swing from tall buildings, and sometimes create a hammock in a moment's notice in case you need to romantically watch the stars, with someone probably named Mary Jane, Gwen, or Liz. Spider-Man 2099 does indeed have this ability, but it's not quite the same as the rest of the spiders. For starters, his webbing comes from the back of his hand, so when he shoots it, he looks more like Black Widow shooting one of those taser discs than he does a Spider-Man. Another unique fact is that he's one of only a few Spider-Men whose webbing is organically created within his body. Some of what makes Spider-Man 2099 so special and unique are the powers that he possesses that no other Spider people have, or very few at the least. However, sometimes Spider-Man 2099 can't help but be missing a few of the signature abilities that many other Spider people have. One of Peter Parker's most iconic capabilities is his Spider Sense. We all have it. It's that feeling in the pit of your gut, or the back of your throat, or watching the hair on your arms stand up that tells you something just isn't right here. Only Peter Parker's is dialed up to 11. He can determine where threats are about to punch, judge how villains are going to attack, or even sniff out when a supervillain's alternate personality is taken over. This is unfortunately one of Spidey's abilities that Miguel O'Hara just lacks. Now, his reflexes are certainly up to snuff, so much so that he can match fists with any opponent. However, he makes up for his inability to predict his opponent's next move with a much better ability of taking a punch to the face and continuing to fight on. Needless to say, he has to do that a lot more often than the spider people who can dodge punches. While he is lacking in some areas, such as not having a spider sense, Spider-Man 2099 certainly makes up for it in others. This next power that sets him slightly apart from some of his spider counterparts really comes in handy, especially for the criminals who like to do their crime at night, which last I checked is most of them. Oftentimes, Peter Parker will use some kind of enhanced technology that helps him focus. His spider abilities give him the neat trick of sensing things around him, but not all the time. For example, in the dark, Spider-Man has to solely rely on his spider sense, which, while helpful, definitely gives him a disadvantage. There are times where he uses special goggles or some invention from Tony Stark that lets him see at night. But Spider-Man 2099 comes with this preloaded. Miguel O'Hara's night vision is all natural and comes in great handy when protecting the citizens of Nueva York. It helps him carry out sneak attacks and infiltrations on par with that of the military, all without ever having to get his hands on a piece of possibly faulty equipment. Some Spider-Men get all the luck with their powers. They just get super strength and reflexes and can pass off as a totally normal human. Unfortunately, some of Miguel's powers, while very cool, definitely don't allow him to do that all the time. Miguel's spider formula really took the assignment literally, and besides just giving him web shooters, it also outfitted him with talons on his hands and feet, as well as a pair of fangs. Unlike some other Spider-Men who just so happen to be really sticky, Miguel actually uses his talons to climb walls. They are razor sharp and can dig into materials as hard as cinder blocks. While retractable, similar to Wolverine's claws or Sabretooth's, they're also very handy for an R-rated fight scene. His fangs, on the other hand, are not retractable, which often makes it difficult for him to talk like a normal human. He often sounds like a dog with peanut butter stuck to the roof of his mouth. However, these things aren't all bad. They actually create and secrete a non-lethal venom that can paralyze his opponents. Given that he actually has some run-ins with vampires, it's safe to say this levels the playing field a little bit. One thing to note about Spider-Man 2099 is that while he may often rely on his fists and super strikes to do the talking, he's actually got it where it counts upstairs as well. There is a wide array of Marvel geniuses, and Miguel O'Hara ranks right up there with the best of them. After all, his high standing and forced work at Alchemax is due to his unmatched genius. He's unlocked technological secrets never discovered by the geniuses of the heroic age, such as Iron Man or Bruce Banner. In fact, other than being a skilled geneticist capable of creating the next spider hero, he's also a whiz kid on the computer. He's been able to hack through security systems created by such Marvel geniuses as Tony Stark, Reed Richards, and Dr. Doom. Sure, being from the future has gifted him with advances in technology that some of his predecessors could not have had at their disposal, but he's still one of the best minds of his time. Let's get down to perhaps the best part of any Spider-Man, their suit.
Spider-Man.
Miguel O'Hara certainly has a few distinctions that make it much different from any other. For starters, it's probably the coolest looking. Spider-Man 29 is so anticipated to make his film debut because comic fans recognize the awesome suit. But just what is so secret about this hidden gem? First off, its origin. Miguel's suit originally started off as a costume to celebrate the Day of the Dead. Eventually, Miguel gave it some upgrades and made it composed of unstable molecules. This technology was first used by Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four, and it makes the suit nearly indestructible. It was the only material that could survive being ripped apart by Miguel's own claws. It's wind resistant and gives him an extra ability to glide on the air. However, this was not his only suit. Spider-Man 2099 eventually went back in time and worked for Peter Parker. The original Spider-Man made Miguel a new suit, also made of unstable molecules, but this time combined with Kevlar to make it even more unbreakable. This new suit could change color and look just as cool as the old one. Overall, whichever one we get, we're in for a great time. Some of the best things about heroes are the feats they accomplish. There is one specifically that is pretty much the easiest way to tell people that a character has made it. In a storyline called Manifest Destiny, the 2099 future is at risk, and at the heart of it is Miguel O'Hara, as pretty much the time's only hero. It's up to Miguel to save the day, or else 2099 will be no more. He found an unexpected ally in his quest in the form of Steve Rogers. That's right, the man who's probably the best at going to sleep for extremely long periods of time only to wake up when the world needs him most. This time, when Steve Rogers woke up from being comatose, he gained possession of Thor's mighty hammer, Mjolnir. In order to help Miguel save the day, Steve willed Mjolnir to Spider-Man 2099, and the mighty weapon of Asgard found him worthy. That's right, joining the ranks of people like Vision, Thor, Captain America, and several others, Miguel O'Hara, though rough around the edges, proved himself good enough of heart to be worthy of wielding one of the most famous weapons in all of Marvel history. Spider-Man 2099's special skills aren't just limited to biting people and lifting mighty weapons. In fact, probably the whole catalyst for the Across the Spider-Verse movie comes with Miguel O'Hara's next ability. He, like many in the future, have figured out the wonder of time travel. He's able to hop dimensions in different timelines thanks to the technology of his time, but very often his time traveling is not his choice. So many of Miguel's adventures deal with him moving backwards and forwards in time. There's one story where he teams up with his future daughter, who becomes a time-traveling hero, and another one where he goes back in time to team up with the original Spider-Man, Peter Parker. He has learned about his death in the future and can experience numerous events from the past. Overall, it's likely this tendency of Spider-Man 2099 that brings all the Spider-Men of the universe together in Across the Spider-Verse. So, we know a lot about Miguel now, and how he likes to time travel, but what about the time he actually lives in? What does he experience growing up, or during his time as a hero that we may not know? Miguel lives in the futuristic town of Nueva York, in the year 2099, in the dimension Earth 928. The most interesting part about this time is how they view the heroes we are most familiar with. Dubbed the Heroic Age, led by people like Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, and yes, Peter Parker. Heroes seem to be all but legends at this point. There are very few existing on their own at this time when Miguel becomes Spider-Man 2099. In fact, he made it his mission to lead Alchemax in creating the next version of Spider-Man. Unwillingly, that becomes himself, and eventually several heroes pop up in the year 2099, but most of them emulate heroes from the dubbed Heroic Age. Heck, some of the religion of this time has even been based off heroes of the past, including the Church of Thor. Overall, it may be a different dimension, but it's very much a look at what the future of Earth 616 could look like. The next interesting fact about the time where Miguel lives is just who's running things. And boy, you're not gonna believe it. Victor Von Doom of this universe managed to live to the year 2099. And in his own words, by right of evolution, he actually became elected president of the United States. Possibly the worst person for the job. Doom gains the power he had been searching for so long on Earth 616. And needless to say, things aren't so great. He enlists Miguel O'Hara's archenemy Tyler Stone to be a member of his cabinet. At the same time, he recognizes Miguel's genius and reaches out to him to join the cabinet as the head of the Division of Superhero Affairs. Of course, Miguel, for all his faults, is at heart a hero, so he does reject this request. At the end of the day, it certainly shows the hardship Miguel has to live through. That may not be quite the same as many other heroes, when the guy steering the ship is also the world's greatest villain. While Miguel has no shortage of villains, let's take a look at Spider-Man 2099's worst. This is a man named Tyler Stone. Stone works as the head of Alchemax, the company Miguel works for. He secretly leads Alchemax as a tyrannical organization with secret police that rule over Nueva York. He uses violence to get what he wants, and even forced Miguel to undergo the experimentation that led to him becoming Spider-Man 2099, unknown to Stone himself. However, there is another secret much deeper to know about Tyler Stone. You see, long ago, Miguel's mother Conchata O'Hara had an affair with her husband George's boss. Where did George work? You guessed it, Alchemax. And that boss was none other than Tyler Stone himself. That affair led to a child who would one day become the famous Spider-Man 2099. So if you're following, that means that Spider-Man 2099's archenemy is none other than his own father. Speaking of dysfunctional families, Miguel O'Hara's father is only one piece of the puzzle. Heroes are no strangers to having family members become archenemies, but if Spider-Man 2099 had a nickel every time someone who's related to him tried to kill him, he'd have at least 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. The second foe he often fights against is his half-brother Kron Stone. Kron was always a bully, and before he gained superpowers, Miguel even tried to kill him. Eventually organizing hits on people, one deal went terribly wrong. A man named Jacob Gallows took revenge on Kron for organizing the hit on his family. He stabbed him and threw his body in the sewer. As he lay dying, a familiar yet somehow changed friend of ours found his way to him. The Venom symbiote, after so many years in this universe, had mutated and gained new powers, but still for some reason loved to bond itself to certified whack jobs. Kron Stone became Venom 2099, with new powers including acidic blood and saliva like he's some kind of xenomorph. Stone, who never discovered that Miguel O'Hara was his half-brother, still hated him enough to try and torture him. He attacked the people closest to him and even tried to kill Miguel's fiancée Dana. Overall, he became a regular foe of Spider-Man 2099, and it's pretty easy to see why. And that's all the secrets we know about Spider-Man 2099, though I'm sure Across the Spider-Verse will reveal many more. In fact, I'm sure we'll get to learn a lot about way too many Spider people. Which facts were you most surprised to learn about the multiverse's next great hero, Miguel O'Hara?